Hi friends. Okay, this is going to be a tutorial about loose watercolor florals. And before I show you some of the flowers I like to do and how to do them, I thought I'd give you a quick idea of what I'm talking about. So this page here, although there are doodle lines on top of the flowers, which is, by the way, one of my favorite strategies to fix a broken watercolor. These would be an example. These are super loose. These right here are pretty loose. They're a pattern, but it's a pattern of a certain type of flower, kind of all bloomed together. These are loose watercolor flowers. This is one of the types of flowers I like to do a lot. This is another type of flower I like to do. None of my flowers that I'm going to be showing you today are like multi-layered. They're all one, it's called one pass flowers, which means we don't have to come in and do more layers after it dries. You do it all in that first go. And I would recommend looking for inspiration, ideas, and tutorials from people, books, images, whatever you want to do, from people that have a style that you kind of are looking to emulate, because sometimes when you find ones that look very complicated, they're hard to reproduce in that simplistic kind of soft style. Okay, so I'm going to just flip this over to a fresh page and show you. I'm going to just show you a few. Let me make sure my frame is good. The paint that I'm using here is, as always, not always, but my favorite. This, I don't know how to say it. Let me show you the lid. I'll include a link just so you can see it. This is my favorite vibrant watercolor to use. And I was thinking, let me open my page over here so I don't forget any of the styles that I wanted to show you. But I was thinking that a few that are pretty easy, I could give you names for them, but I'm worried that's not what they really actually are. One though that is easy and fun, I'm just using a round brush. That's really important. This brush is, you know, it pushes down and gets flat. It's pretty big because I'm going to work rather big for you guys. But I'll just do one color, one simple flower at a time. So this one that's kind of like rose or ranunculus or one of those bloomy kind of flowers is what I would call this. And that is, this one you start with just a little bit of like, okay, let me see if I can move this angle so you can see my brush on the page slightly better. Fix my light for you a little bit, maybe. Okay, so I start with like some blobbies in the middle. I kind of think like half C blobby type things. And then what makes the magic with this flower is when you create new lines that connect to your wet paint. And you dip into water here and there to change the translucency of your watercolor, as in make it less and more opaque, because then the color can kind of travel around through your water. So I'm kind of using just that C motion to keep making more bigger petals. This isn't a ranunculus. That one is a different strategy that I'll show you in a minute. This is more of a rose. For me, this is a rose. But I'm just doing C motions. I can always grab a little bit more paint, but after I grab paint, I'm actually putting a little water in to just keep it nice and watery. And then I'm pushing my brush flat as I get toward the outside, especially to make some like wider petals. The other thing to think about when you're doing watercolor flowers or any watercolor is to leave that white space in there, because that is going to help give it that pretty translucent, flowy feel that you see in watercolor flowers. So there's one that's kind of fun to do. Let's try the swirly one now. This is one of the first watercolor flowers I learned to do. I believe when I learned, it was called a ranunculus, according to the person that I was following. Similar concept with this flower though. You are starting in the middle, but this time you're going to kind of spiral out. And as you spiral out, once again, we're grabbing We're letting the water touch itself. It doesn't have to be a perfect spiral. Notice how I picked up my brush. But this one is much less petally and much more spirally. So that's another kind of a flowy natural flower. We'll do one more that's kind of this open, rosy, petally type thing. So I have my center, and then I'm going to do these like petal shaped C's. The way that I do that is I use the tip of my brush, and then I push down as I come out, and then I go back to the tip a little bit, or try. And I'm gonna kind of do that around, follow it around, and do that all the way. And then I'm gonna keep going kind of off center, so they're kind of like filling in around each other to keep a bit of a circle feel. So it's like, see, this one goes in between those ones. Some of them can get filled in. It doesn't really actually matter. So I'm going to come down here because I don't know how to deal with that space right now. So what I would do is I would come from the middle, and I would do kind of like these strokey lines. Instead of petals that are round at the end, what if we stroked them out? So do it like this. They don't have to all be the same. Leave some white space. And I might even like let it dry a little bit before I come back and add any more fullness around these. Another shape that I think is really fun to do and so easy is to get just any color. Just take it and make dots. Don't make them perfect. Push your brush down into the page and dot around. Whenever I'm done with a bunch of flowers, I will add like greenery to the edges. But all I want to show you as far as greenery goes is just that same strategy that I did with these petals. Use that for your greenery. Okay, this brush might be too big for what I'm trying to do. But you want to leave a little bit of white space in your leaves, and you want to use the shape of your brush to your advantage. And so if you come in and you just use that shape of the brush to kind of push out the shape of the leaf, it will give you this really kind of pretty organic feel. These leaves are just a matter of practice. Practicing how to push your brush down and get this kind of leafy shape is really easier than you might think. Other thing that I think would be fun to show you, since I did it on accident and it is a great effect on any watercolor, don't be afraid of the splatter. So grab any brush. I'm just using that same brush I've been using since that's what I used before, and whack it. It's not, my paint is not wet enough. Hold on, I just got water and no paint. Okay. Get your paint really wet. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay, this is my little paint goober. I'm gonna get it really wet in there, so it's like paint soup. There we go. And then once you have it on your brush and it's all wet, you're gonna tap it on your finger and let that watercolor splatter around. Now, if you do this while your paint is still wet, it's gonna splosh into the paint. But if it's dry, it's gonna leave like a splatter effect on top of your floral. Don't try to control the splatter because life has shown me that you can't, but it is a fun effect to add even more of a loose, flowy feeling to your flowers. So there you have it. That is some of my favorite flowers to draw. I mean, there are more that I do, but the dots, the different variations of the circle petally one, and these ones that come out kind of like, you know, daisy style. Oh, and the circle. Man, with those, your options are kind of endless, right? Okay. Enjoy, friends. I can't wait to see the flowers that you make.